Welcome into the Cleveland Browns Report by Chat Sports. I'm Matthew Peterson, answering questions in our Mailbag video, which is from our live show every single Thursday over at 4 Eastern. Make sure you tune into that if you want to be on a future Mailbag. Now, let's jump into our first question, which comes in from Owen Barth. Owen asking, why does no one ever give Dobbs a chance? Is he really worse than A.J. McCarron? Good question, Owen. Dobbs actually went to my alma mater, the University of Tennessee. Got to watch him play his senior year, my freshman year. Wasn't that good in Pittsburgh. He had some opportunities, not really opportunities. He came in for a couple plays when Big Ben inevitably broke every bone in his body and then was like, actually, I'm fine. I'm Superman. I'll go back out there with a billion ice packs on his shoulder and legs. But is he worse? No, but I think what you're looking at here is Andrew Berry just wants competition to let the best rise to the top. This is not bringing A.J. McCarron to replace Josh Dobbs. This is let's bring in four quarterbacks like Brogan Roback, because you tend to do that during training camp anyway, and let competition figure out who your best practice squad quarterback is. Question coming in from my guy Justin Trimble. What's the harm in throwing Julio Jones an offer? So here's, I guess, the harm in it, is you're taking away reps from receivers that you have a lot of belief can really blossom this year. And that's okay to do if Julio Jones is a proven, reliable upgrade. But what he's done the last 2 years, he hasn't looked like that. So I think when Andrew Berry's like, you know what, sure we could bring Julio in, but what if we bring him in and it kind of stunts the growth of Schwartz, Bell, and DPJ a tad, and then Julio kind of sucks like he's done the last 2 years. I get that andrew if you just look at names, you're like, Julio, always good at football. Why don't we just bring him in? Yeah, it's a little bit more than that. They want to see their other receivers. Andrew Berry wants to see his picks pan out. Cardiac Dogs Podcast. Bigger mark, number 2 wide receiver or starting defensive tackle? Great question. I'm going to go with number 2 wide receiver. I think that's I'm going to say that because Andrew Berry has shown he doesn't mind kind of half-assing the defensive tackle position because he's baiting you to run the football at Myles Garrett or Clowney, right? Sure, you could definitely poke some holes at Bryan and Elliott, but at the end of the day, you got to pass the football in the NFL. And you have to have more than one option because if Amari Cooper is proven to be the only go-to, defenses will pick up on that. And all of a sudden, they'll be testing you and baiting you to throw to DPJ, Bell, and Schwartz. And if they aren't living up to the hype, it'll be hard to move the football down the field. We got a question coming in from Edward Joseph. Could you see the Browns signing anyone before camp that isn't a defensive tackle? Okay, it's a good question, Edward, because we definitely talked a lot about defensive tackle free agents. When I go through the Browns roster and maybe some weaknesses, one would be tight end, because you lost Austin Hooper, which could be addition by subtraction, but you didn't bring anyone else really in except for some UDFAs and whatnot. No one all that notable. So when you look at the depth chart here, everyone's moved up a row after Hooper was released, and we're all buying in that Harrison Bryant's going to be a tight end too. So what about a player like Jared Cook? Sure, an older player in his career, but for an older player, last year for the Chargers, putting together 564 yards and 4 touchdowns, I mean, those stats with the Browns would have been one of the best receivers. So I'm interested in at least saying, hey, Jared Cook, are you in a good football shape? Because we want to see if you can compete on this roster, especially if this is a Browns team that gets good word from the Deshaun Watson side of things, and it's all chips into the middle of the table. Let's go and get the best starting 11 possible and not wait for some players to develop. So I'll let you guys be the GM here. Should the Browns sign Jared Cook? S for sign or P for pass? Let me know what you're thinking down in the comments section below. All right, next question coming up. Comes in from Joshua Miller, and he was suspended to a couple. Okay, so we're talking about Josh Gordon. Josh and I were talking about this earlier. Suspended a couple games when he got those career numbers. So, yeah, we were chatting about some of the best receivers in Browns history, some favorite ones, where Josh Gordon did that 2013 season with bad quarterbacks, and he didn't even play the full season. It's insane to think what he could have done. All right, next question coming in from Soul Train. Will the Browns wait until cut down to 53 before they sign some more guys? So there's a couple big, I wouldn't say necessarily hurdles, but calendar dates during the preseason training camp, because they might wait till 53 and see if any notable players were cut on other teams. Kind of like last year when Kadarius Hodge was cut, that's when the Lions decided, okay, let's go bring him in off waivers. So that could be something that Andrew Berry looks at, is once cut day happens, yeah, we're going to make a move. There has been some chatter that after 53-man roster and pre-week 1, you might see the Browns actually be a little bit busy. Wouldn't rule it out because, I mean, just the other day, you saw Kyle Rudolph get signed by the Bucs. I wouldn't say out of nowhere, but somewhere out of nowhere. So GMs, it's their job, and they like to do their job well. John Lowe with our next question. How does producer Marshall feel to lose the battle to 10K? He was pretty upset. I'm not going to lie, guys. When we beat him by about 40 subs, you better believe the first thing I did was send a text to Marshall Green. All right, if you guys want to be on the next mailbag, by the way, as he gives me the bird for that, make sure you subscribe to the channel. So if you're like, hey, I want to ask a question and be a part of this interactive show, it's really simple stuff. All you got to do is subscribe to get free Browns content. All right, another question coming in from Josh. Do we go all in this year with Jimmy G if Deshaun Watson is suspended most or all of the year? Or a go with a competent backup to Brissett and punt the season and possibly have another last season? So let's break down this question in two ways. If Deshaun Watson is suspended for, I'll say 12 or more games, I think that would kind of be close to my threshold. If Jimmy G can be got for a 6th or a 7th because the Niners have no one else calling, yeah, I'd be open to it. I mean, why not, right? Let's get a little weird, have a little fun with it, especially if he's released by the Niners, which a lot of teams could be waiting for that to happen because they know that San Francisco ain't going to pay him $24 million to back up Trey Lance, most likely. Now, as for going for a backup for Brissett and punting, I don't like saying punting because this is a really good team. And last year with Baker Mayfield, a hurt quarterback, they were able to churn out 8 wins. If Brissett is healthy all year and is maybe a hair above a hurt Baker or whatever, who's to say they can't go 9-8 and steal 1 and 10-7 and you're in the playoffs, right? Or you're in a playoff hunt. So no, I don't think you're punting even if you lose Watson for the year. Now, if you guys have not turned your notifications on, make sure you go ahead and do that already. It's really simple stuff. You just click the bell icon and then you select it to all. And then you just go to your settings and make sure you allow notifications. That way, when we drop a new video about the latest Browns news, rumors, trade rumors, you can be one of the first to click on it and get a shout-out on the show and be a part of the Noti gang like KJ and Grant, always one of the first to comment. Scorpion, Night Fright, Tim, All Hats No Break, Brandon Williams, Jeffrey, Scarehouse, Irish Mike, Dion Owens. If you ever want to get wild and have fun with some crazy trade ideas, check out Dion Owens because he gets very creative in the comment section with different trades. So join the Noti game, get a shout out when you get those notifications on. Question coming in from Matthew Hancock. So stoked for Amari. I've rooted for that guy from the start and was jumping when we traded for him. Got to grab that jersey next. Speaking of jersey, by the way, really quickly, I think Grant Delpit, when we're recording this right now on Thursday, rumor is he might have changed his jersey number from 22. I didn't see what the new number was, but it's not going to be number 2. But you're right. Amari Cooper, I think, was kind of the lost gem of this offseason. I mean, when you just look at the stats and what he's done so far in his career, when your down year is 865 yards and 8 touchdowns or 680 yards and 7 touchdowns, if that's the lowest low, you got yourself a great wide receiver one. So I am very excited to see Amari Cooper prove to be a more reliable and accountable, not that they didn't have that at Landry, but this is a little bit more of an explosion site in terms of Amari Cooper. Next question coming in from KJ and Grant. Excuse me. Okay, that's not good for audio. Do you think that David Bell will get over 3 touchdowns? Yeah, I'll go with he can go water or wet. Producer Marshall whispers in my ear. Yes, I will say 4 touchdowns for David Bell. I think especially with the amount of targets coming his way out of the slot, he can do some damage. All right, I didn't really cough here. That time I helped everyone's ears out. All right, let's move on to our next question here. Oh my, I coughed and now I'm crying. Patty Timms, I'm dying up right here. What is a sneaky training camp battle? Sneaky training camp battle is, I think I might faint or something right now when I cough. Okay. No, we're going to make it through this. What is a sneaky training camp battle? Wide receiver, defensive tackle are some of the more popular options. So if I had to pick between one of those two, I'm going to go wide receiver. And for this reason. All 4 names at the top are locks. Jakeem Grant is a lock. I'm dying. That's 5 wide receivers. They probably take 6. Who is that 6? It's going to be the 6th-round pick, Michael Woods out of Oklahoma. You'd like to think Andrew Berry will give his rookie at least 1 year on the roster. Probably won't dress for many games. Isaiah Weston's a fun UDFA to watch for. Out of Northern Iowa, he can do some damage. Jamarcus Bradley. Wims is a more of a veteran, but he's got to keep his hands to himself. So I think wide receiver will be fun. I know this is really nerdy, but that's what we get sometimes on the show. I love the idea of looking at who that 6th wide receiver will be. Super Chat from Cardiac Dogs Podcast. Okay, for Super Chat, I got a beer cheer, so now we can cool over the pipes. Saying thanks for the awesome daily Browns content. F the Steelers. F the Ravens. F Cincy. Here we go, Brownies. Here we go. Woof, woof. Appreciate the Super Chat, Cardiac Dogs. Always love the content you guys put out as well. We got a question coming in from Jared. Will Peoples-Jones get above 8 touchdowns? 8's a big number. You know, 8's a big number for a wide receiver, too. So I hate to be the party pooper. I'll take the under if you're going to set it at 8. Now, it's very up in the air. Who will his quarterback be for all 17 games? But even if it is Watson for an entire season, I'm still going to err on probably not going to be that high of a number. So is that our last question? We got one more coming our way. Josh Miller, I already know this is going. Do you think Matt won't wear a golf shirt for tomorrow's update? I got bad news for you, Josh. My whole closet is this, so it's going to be that. I want to ask this question before we get on out of here, and I can go drink some water. Have you been to Berea before? Have you been to Browns training camp before? It's coming up in a couple days. I want to put a little tickler out there, see what the pulse of the fan base is like. If you've been to training camp before, give me a Y for yes or an N for no.